It was a bright morning in Lagos City when Amara Nwosu, one of the richest businesswomen in the country, walked into her mansion's courtyard, phone in one hand, frustration in her voice. "I said no excuses, Tund. The meeting starts at 9, not when you decide to show up." Her red heels clicked against the marble floor as her assistant's voice trembled on the other end. Amara was known not only for her beauty and intelligence but also for her fiery temper. People said she could melt steel with her stare. Behind her, carrying 2 heavy black garbage bags, was Daniel, her gateman, a quiet man who rarely spoke unless spoken to. His clothes were worn, his hands rough, and his eyes calm. He'd been working for Amara for 2 years, yet she barely knew anything about him. But Daniel knew her. He saw her when she was angry, when she was lonely, and even when she sat by her window late at night, staring into nothing, a queen in her golden cage. That morning, as Amara barked orders at her staff, Daniel noticed her pause suddenly. She pressed her hand against her chest, wincing in pain. "Madam, are you okay?" Daniel asked, stepping closer. She waved him off. "I'm fine. Just tired." But within seconds, her phone dropped to the ground. Her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed. Daniel's heart raced. Without thinking, he dropped the garbage bags and rushed to her side. "Madam. Madam Amara." She wasn't breathing. Panic filled him, her lips were turning pale, her chest wasn't moving. He shouted for help, but the guards were far away at the gate. Daniel's mind raced. He remembered the first aid class he once attended in the village before moving to the city. If someone stops breathing, you help them breathe. Without hesitation, Daniel placed his hands under her neck, tilted her head, and pressed his lips against hers, breathing life into the woman who once never noticed his existence. 1, 2, 3 breaths. Then suddenly, she gasped. Her eyes shot open. Daniel quickly moved back, trembling. For a moment, their eyes met, confusion, fear, and disbelief. "You," she whispered weakly. "What did you just do?" Daniel stood frozen. "You weren't breathing, madam." I was only trying to save your life." Before he could explain further, the housemaids rushed in, gasping at what they saw, their boss on the floor, the poor gateman beside her, lips trembling. In seconds, whispers filled the air. "He kissed her. Has he gone mad? How dare a gateman touch Madame Amara?" Daniel's heart sank. He looked at Amara, hoping she'd explain. But her pride and confusion kept her silent. She simply looked away. And in that silence, Daniel knew everything was about to change. By the time Amara regained her full strength, the whole mansion buzzed with whispers. Every maid, every guard, every driver, all had heard the story. The poor gateman kissed Madame Amara. Some said it was witchcraft. Others said Daniel had been secretly in love with her. Amara sat in her grand living room, a silk robe wrapped around her, still pale from the fainting episode. Across from her stood Daniel, his head bowed, hands trembling. "Madam, I swear," he began softly, "you stopped breathing. I only wanted to help you." Her assistant, Tund, scoffed. "Help? By kissing her? You think we're fools?" Daniel's chest rose and fell heavily. He wanted to shout, but he didn't. Instead, he looked directly at Amara. "Please, madam. Tell them. You know the truth." Amara looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in years. His eyes were honest, desperate, full of fear but not guilt. She wanted to say something, but the weight of pride pressed against her throat. "Daniel," she finally said, her tone cold, "you should not have touched me, no matter your reason." Those words cut deeper than a knife. The guards stepped forward immediately. "Pack your things," Tund ordered. "You're fired." Daniel stood there, frozen. His lips trembled, but he said nothing. He simply nodded, turned, and walked away, the same calmness in his steps, but his heart breaking with every move. Outside, as he packed his few belongings, a blanket, an old Bible, and a photo of his mother, the maids watched him with pity. "He didn't mean harm," one whispered. "Still, he crossed a line," another replied. That night, rain poured down over Lagos. Amara stood by her window, looking at the storm. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's face, the way his hands trembled, the fear in his voice, the honesty in his eyes. But her pride whispered louder. He is just a worker. Forget him. Yet something in her heart refused to listen. The next morning, Tund entered her office with a newspaper in hand. "Madam, it's everywhere. Someone from the house leaked the story. Billionaire boss and her gateman caught in scandal." Amara's hands shook as she grabbed the paper. The headlines were bold, cruel, and twisted. No, this can't be happening. Her business partners called. Her board demanded explanations. The scandal spread like wildfire, investors pulled back, clients cancelled contracts. In a single day, her reputation, built over 10 years, started to crumble. By evening, she sat alone in her office, tears filling her eyes. "Why didn't I just tell the truth?" she whispered. Somewhere across town, Daniel sat in a small wooden room behind an old church. His friend Pastor Ease handed him a bowl of soup. "You did what you thought was right, my son," the old man said softly. "And now I've lost everything for it," Daniel replied, staring into the bowl. The rain tapped softly against the tin roof. "When the truth sleeps," Pastor Ease said, "lies wake up louder. But don't worry, truth never stays asleep forever." Daniel looked up slowly, the fire of hope returning to his tired eyes. He didn't know how, but deep down, he believed, one day, Amara would know the full truth. And that day would change both of their lives forever. Days turned into weeks, and Amara's mansion grew quieter than ever. The maids moved like shadows, afraid to speak, afraid to breathe too loudly. The scandal had done its damage, investors were gone, her company's name dragged through the mud. Amara sat on the balcony one night, wrapped in a blanket, her once glowing eyes now dim. The city lights stretched far into the horizon, but for the first time in years, she felt small. She had built an empire with iron and pride, but now, everything felt hollow. And beneath that silence, one question haunted her like a spirit in the dark. What if Daniel was truly innocent? The thought wouldn't leave her. So, the next morning, she called Aisha, her oldest maid, one who had been in her service since the beginning. "Aisha," Amara said quietly, "tell me the truth. What really happened that day before I fainted?" Aisha hesitated, wringing her hands. "Madam, the heat was terrible that afternoon. You collapsed suddenly. Daniel rushed to help. When he saw you weren't breathing, he tried what he saw on TV, the way to make someone breathe again." Amara's heart tightened. "So, he wasn't trying to take advantage of me?" Aisha shook her head slowly. "No, madam. He was trying to save you." For the first time in weeks, Amara's chest loosened. The guilt hit her like thunder. She had ruined an innocent man's life, a man who only tried to save hers. That same evening, Amara told her driver to take her to St. Matthew's Church, the one near Daniel's old neighborhood. When she arrived, she saw him sweeping the courtyard. His clothes were simple, his back slightly bent, but his face, still peaceful, still kind. When he looked up and saw her, he froze, broom in hand. "Madam," he whispered, as though afraid it was a dream. He blinked, unsure how to react. "Sorry, for what, madam?" Her eyes filled with tears. "For not standing by the truth. For letting you be humiliated when you saved my life. I was proud, and I let my pride destroy yours." Daniel dropped his broom and quickly shook his head. "No, madam. You owe me nothing. God sees all. That is enough." But Amara wasn't satisfied. She reached into her purse, pulling out an envelope. "Here. Take this. It's not enough, but—" Daniel took a step back. "Please, madam. I don't need your money." She looked at him, speechless. "Then what do you want?" He smiled gently. "Just forgiveness, from both of us. You from your guilt, and me from my anger." At that moment, the evening sun broke through the clouds, bathing them in warm light. The air was heavy with peace. Then Amara said softly, "Would you come back to work? Not as a gateman. As my driver." Daniel hesitated, then nodded with a small smile. "If that's what you wish, madam." And just like that, the journey of forgiveness began. But as peace started to return, a new storm was brewing, one neither of them could see coming. A powerful businessman, Chief Gambo, who once sought to marry Amara for her wealth, learned she was growing close to her former gateman. And he vowed he would destroy them both, no matter the cost. The peace between Amara and Daniel was only the calm before the storm. When Amara returned to her company, people whispered behind her back. They said she was losing her mind, rehiring the same man who had shamed her. But Amara didn't care anymore. For the first time in her life, she was following her heart, not her pride. Daniel now worked as her driver. He wore a clean white shirt and kept his posture straight, his eyes always calm. Every morning, he greeted her with a quiet, "Good morning, madam," and every evening, he waited until she entered her house before leaving. Their relationship was professional but peaceful, built on trust, not fear. And somehow, the world started to notice. One afternoon, as they drove through the busy streets of Lagos, Amara's phone rang. The voice on the other end was cold and sharp. "Amara," said Chief Gambo, "I see you've replaced your dignity with a driver." Her grip tightened on the phone. "What do you want, Chief?" He laughed darkly. "You humiliated me when you refused my proposal. Now you'll regret it. The world will see the kind of woman you really are." Before she could respond, he hung up. Daniel noticed her trembling hands. "Madam, is everything okay?" She sighed deeply. "No, Daniel. It seems my past isn't done with me yet." That night, social media erupted with new headlines. Billionaire Amara seen with former gateman, romantic photos leaked. Chief Gambo speaks, "She chose a poor man over me." The photos were edited, fake, but convincing. One even showed Amara and Daniel holding hands at the church, twisted to look romantic. Amara's phone didn't stop ringing. Sponsors canceled deals. The board members demanded her resignation. She sat alone in her office, tears streaming down her face. "How much more do I have to lose?" Daniel entered quietly, holding a tray of tea. "Madam, please drink something." She looked up at him, broken. "Why are you still here? Everyone else left." He set the tray down gently. "Because when I was at my lowest, you came back for me. Now it's my turn not to walk away." For a moment, silence filled the room, the kind that speaks louder than words. But the next day, the real blow came. Chief Gambo bribed a few of Amara's board members, forcing an emergency vote. She was officially removed as CEO of her company. The same woman who once ruled an empire now sat in her empty office, clutching the photo of her late parents, the founders of that company. Daniel found her there, staring at the photo. "Madam," he said softly, "maybe God is closing this door so he can open a better one." Amara looked up slowly, her eyes full of tears. "Daniel, I don't even know who I am without my work." He smiled faintly. "You're still you, the woman who gave a poor man a chance, the woman who learned to forgive. No title can change that." Outside, the rain began to fall again, tapping gently on the glass, just like the day she had fainted in the courtyard. And for the first time, Amara didn't feel defeated. She felt free. But fate wasn't done yet. Because the man who once tried to destroy her, Chief Gambo, was about to face a downfall so shocking that even Amara couldn't have imagined it. Weeks passed. The storm began to settle. The world had turned its back on Amara, but she had found peace in simplicity, mornings spent walking through the local market, evenings sitting by the small garden Daniel helped her plant behind the house. One evening, as they watered the plants, Daniel said quietly, "Madam, I heard something today, about Chief Gambo." Amara looked up. "What about him?" Daniel hesitated, then continued, "He's been arrested. Fraud, money laundering, everything he accused others of doing, he was doing himself." Amara froze. "Arrested?" He nodded. "Yes. The same reporters who once dragged your name through the mud are now printing his story. The truth always finds its way." Amara closed her eyes, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. So, justice came, not through revenge, but through time. Daniel smiled. "Exactly. God doesn't forget." Days later, Amara's phone buzzed again, this time, with messages of apology from former friends, business partners, and even the media. The world that had mocked her now begged for interviews, asking how she survived such betrayal. But Amara didn't care about fame anymore. She had found something deeper. One morning, she told Daniel, "I want to start something new, a foundation for single mothers and street children. To help those who've lost everything, like I almost did." Daniel's face brightened. "That's beautiful, madam. You're turning your pain into purpose." She smiled warmly. "Not just me, Daniel. Us. You'll help me lead it." He blinked in surprise. "Me?" "Yes, you," she said softly. "You were the only one who stood by me when everyone else left. You saw me, not my money, not my title, just me." The two stood in silence, the soft evening wind brushing past them. Amara looked toward the setting sun and whispered, "Maybe love isn't something we find. Maybe it finds us when we least expect it." And as they both smiled, the camera slowly zooms out, showing the small garden that had replaced the mansion's cold walls, a symbol of peace, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Sometimes, life takes everything away, only to show you what truly matters. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because more heart-touching African stories are coming your way.